Good afternoon, everybody. I hope you're all safe and well. It's good to have you on board this afternoon. I will give it just a small amount of time, but we are on the hour, so I think we'll get going because we want to keep today's session on time. I don't know where this all finds you. In the UK, I hope you're all safe and happy and locked down again. The pandemic seems to continue to wreak its havoc on many industries. I suppose we should all be grateful that despite the tough challenges facing many of us in the industry, our product is, fundamentally in demand and deliverable. So we are lucky in that sense. Today, we're here to talk about the very current issue of aggregation. It's an issue very hard to avoid in all of the work we're involved in today, certainly as 3Vision. It's not just about the issues between SVOD and aggregators, but content owners balancing the implications with or without D2C services, channels considering how carriage negotiations may port into app onboarding and set-top box integration discussions, and pay TV operators ensuring they have the best proposition in market. It's telling now that Wall Street is focusing more on distribution relationships. If any of you picked on any of the very recent ones, everyone from Netflix to HBO to Comcast, it came up. But perhaps it's a factor of the great fallouts we've had between the likes of Peacock and HBO Max with Roku and Amazon Fire, and also the realization that they deliver significant numbers for many. Today, our aim is to take a fast-paced run through the overriding issue that there's a clear consumer need for aggregation of services now, in the same way as pay TV aggregated channels as they grew. Leaning into today's session, we will also suppose whether it is in fact pay TV who are best placed to take this role and who need to respond, as some are, in order to take advantage of the position they're in today. We've talked before actually about things going full circle with the need for a great reaggregation of content, but maybe in the form of services as well. And the implications of this are increasingly important for stakeholders across the industry. And as I said, not just SVOD and pay TV. But as John Stankey actually said from AT&T in his early discussions regarding HBO Max, we're basically unbundling to rebundle. We're happy to take questions at the end. If you can submit those through the Q&A tool at any stage, that would be great. And we'll email you links to this presentation, and the on-demand version will be available. I think we'll send that out tomorrow. Very briefly, I see, as I'm multitasking, I see quickly there's a lot of familiar faces on the session today. But for those of you who don't know us, we're a content consultancy firm that supports businesses across the sector with all types of content challenge. We offer strategic support and research to very varied businesses. And this comes primarily from our very practical experience because we're active in the market. Our independent consulting teams are supporting services throughout EMEA, developing propositions, securing content deals, and helping them move forward. And our biz dev support also helps ensure tech providers are engaging on the best terms with the content industry. But enough on us. Today's technologies mean that almost anyone can become an aggregator. Many technology vendors are coming up with and pushing solutions that allow for this, whether it's transitioning current platforms or launching new ones. And as TV viewing continues to change at pace and a new generation of services emerge, everybody along the value chain faces those important choices about how people are going to find them and how they're going to keep their audiences and how to remain relevant. With this challenged user experience, aggregators are battling to help out and help the consumer navigate through the vast amount of content online by aggregating the content and the channels in one interface. Some of these are disruptors, others are more traditional. But we're all agreed, I think, that there is a clear need towards aggregation that offers universal content access, strong and effective search and recommendation functionality, single point of billing, and even beyond that now, bundling to provide economies for the consumer. Maintaining the narrative about returning to a world where content is aggregated in one piece, it's good to remind ourselves that we're actually talking about a fairly basic need here. cable TV itself was born of necessity in the US very shortly after the mass market for TV began to grow. And the first cable TV systems launched in 1948, 1950 to retransmit channels that otherwise rural homes couldn't receive. Early systems only had about 3 channels. That grew to 12 in the 50s. And by the time we got to the 70s, entrepreneurs saw an opportunity to aggregate cable-only channels by acquiring rights from movie studios and sports franchises, providing an opportunity for the cable companies to add these to their offering and charge customers a premium above their basic monthly charge. The first of these to be aggregated, HBO, launched in 72 with just a measly 365 subscribers in one town in Pennsylvania, a long way from where HBO are now today. But although ESPN arrived in 79, it was probably the 80s that saw the channel numbers explode and the multi-channel world kind of truly boom. And with the explosion of channels, options multiplied and the need for aggregation grew in importance. And TV operators began to offer more of a service. Since the early 90s, we've seen operators, to be frank, really flip and flop between how to bundle and price their TV service. And this has been going on for many years. We all have probably been in that world and understand it. But ultimately, they were changing how they package their content, but ultimately it was under their control. The pay TV walled garden was firmly in place and competition was on straightforward terms. The EPG was born in about 1990, helping to make sense of this world. And as it grew, with blunt and very obvious parallels to some of the issues we face today, a channel's EPG position became highly valued and traded in some countries. There were other developments impacting the viewing experience and adding choice at this stage. The VCR, obviously, when VHS won out, Blockbuster stores, DVDs, TiVo, and perhaps more significantly when the operators launched the DVRs soon after. But it was, as I think everyone would expect us to say, the internet that truly led the transformative activity. Throughout the 90s, internet businesses entered the market across many sectors once the World Wide Web was there. Amazon in 95, Google in 96, Napster in 99, and on, whether it's booksellers, which was what all Amazon did to start with, music producers, retailers. They wouldn't feel much yet, but the signs were there. Netflix launched, I think, postal DVDs at the end of the 90s, but it wasn't until the noughties that real streaming initiatives started. And today the web provides direct and immediate access to consumers with very low billing and delivery costs now, and limited barriers to entry and exit that have encouraged services to launch. Traditional TV stakeholders, it's hard to use that word now, were in some, but not all cases, slow to jump in, happy with the revenues coming in from their traditional businesses. But eventually, everyone has a play. Broadcasters, pay TV operators, and increasingly more recently, content owners, with the direct-to-consumer rollouts fueling this discussion even further. In the same way as businesses waited for the tipping point to increase their digital focus, the issue of aggregation has now really reached a tipping point. Which brings us to the aggregators themselves. Any discussion about them is challenged by the fact that the candidates for discussion, which aren't exhaustively listed here, are often coming at it from a very different direction. There are more CE manufacturers, there are free TV broadcasters now enhancing their players with additional channels, and other services launching. Globoplay in Brazil has grown from SVOD to add linear channels, and now I see just announced it's partnering with Disney+. For some, their core business dwarfs any current aggregation activity, and therefore the rules of engagement can be broken when they have a different rationale or return on investment criteria. Some may exist in a secondary role and may not emerge as a super-aggregator. I'll come back to that term later, but they will play an important role for some segments. There will be new challenges and issues evolving over time as aggregators and services fight for leverage, whether that be over data and data sharing and disintermediation, surfacing of services, UI placement, positioning, paid promotion and search, or even, as it seems with the case of services like that we've seen with Peacock, the sharing of additional revenues like advertising. Apple, Amazon, Roku, they're all playing a role whilst OTT delivers direct consumer services the best outcome in terms of losing margin. They all recognize the value and worth of these different services and different aggregators. And commercial approaches have been changing over time, whether you're talking about app stores, Amazon, Samsung, and all of them, with margins and approaches varying. Commitment, however, does not seem to appear to be wavering, with more initiatives, especially as it seems quite a lot with AVOD at the moment. We see, I think Microsoft will release the Xbox Series X and S, I think, on next week. And they've confirmed Netflix, Disney, Amazon, Peacock, YouTube, along with the kind of the Sky's OTT platforms in this markets like Now TV, and in US, the AVODs like Tubi. And I think uniquely at the moment, they'll also include Apple TV. But arguably, as we said at the outset, one of the best places to take this role is, in fact, pay TV. We aren't talking about there being one winner, and many aggregators will still play a role on a device that consumers have a preference for. But pay TV has a very important position in the home. In addition to being well placed, it's pay TV who arguably can go the deepest in terms of relationships. As time has shown, there are many components at play here, and it's not just about who can market the service best. Early relationships, very early relationships, were about interconnections and CDNs. Then, especially with mobile telcos, they're quick to get to free offers and free SVOD offers. Billing and set-top app launches followed, many siloed early on. Then deeper integrations with set-top boxes. Longer term promos came in particular from pay TV and some of the mobile telcos, and then a move from soft to hard bundles. Pay TV now offers extensive options, whether that be accessibility, the user experience, the marketing, the discovery, and perhaps importantly, the bundled subs. All factors that apply equally actually to SVOD as well as services with an AVOD model. I think it's worth looking back over in time just to note not just what has progressed, but who with. This is by no means an exhaustive list of deals, but pay TV partnerships appeared in 2013 when Netflix partnered with Virgin on their TiVo box, and soon after with ComHem. These two were to be exceptions actually in their level of integration at this stage, with the Virgin TiVo box offering fully searchable content through the UI, bundled offers in its TV packs, and free promos. And this at this early stage, all the other agreements were far more limited. In addition to their limitations in the early years, they were also significantly not with the pay TV market leaders, most typically with the telco challengers, the likes of Proximus, Deutsche, BT. Up to the end of about 2015, whilst Netflix was rolling out internationally, mobile telcos were giving away a lot of value with Netflix offers, largely happy to do so as they had a decent sort of subscriber acquisition cost they could play with, and they were chasing higher value, in particular 4G subs at the time, moving from 6 to 12 to even to 24-month offers. Even the first US deals in late 2016 were limited, with Comcast's first integration just the launch of the Netflix app on the X1 platform. This would change at the start of 2018 as they expanded that partnership to include Netflix in some of their packages. And between 26 and 18, there were lots of mobile giveaways. There was zero rating of data. There were more app launches, fairly basic set-top box app launches. And it was really from 2018 when more significant changes began. A significant extra layer was added to Comcast, as I said. Sky and Telefonica launched Netflix with billing and UI integration. And now Amazon started appearing a bit more with operators, although Amazon obviously are complicated by the broader offer that business has. But now, not only do we have soft bundling, where in effect subscribers pay 2 subscriptions and Netflix is paying the operator what is effectively a marketing expense, but a growing amount of hard bundling, where subscribers are effectively paying for Netflix through their pay TV or telecoms bills, and it's more like a wholesale deal. From a commercial perspective alone, we've progressed through basic promotions to longer term promo offers, then to sort of more flexible add-ons of services, and now to more comprehensive bundling that in some rare cases now also includes multiple SVODs. I think Disney have a unique place in the ecosystem and have approached partnerships with great flexibility. We've talked about this before in our previous Disney Plus discussions, but this has meant that they've leveraged their current position and established relationships across different markets in key territories that are quite different, bundling with some whilst merely having a retail relationship with others. although they are an exceptional player in that they own pay TV channel interests that are transitioning and effectively have movie windows to play with, they are demonstrating the different types of relationships very well, as you can see here. Some are much closer to old-fashioned pay TV, some are reseller relationships, and then there are hybrid mixed models. It was interesting to hear Sky's take on their deal, effectively saying that they have taken a very high fixed cost out of their P&L, changed the channels to an app, and now secure a margin by selling Disney Plus through Sky. This revenue now flows back into their P&L, whilst on the consumer side, they say there is no change to the experience. Whilst this last statement may not fully reflect the additional cost to the consumer, it does make clear the new paradigm for the relationship between some services and some pay TV operators. And all of this is happening whilst the SVOD market becomes increasingly competitive. Netflix and other global streamers face significant challenges keeping up their growth and retaining customers. They have key growth markets, and these numbers here are growth across big regions. And Asia Pac is certainly a big focus for Netflix at the moment. And the huge market of India, they've talked about for a long time, and they've been very clear about their investments in programming, but they're not shy in admitting the importance of distribution partnerships in India as well. And they were drawn on that in their earnings call that they've just had for their Q3 earnings call. When asked about the importance of the partnerships, they stressed how these, along with local content, are key areas of investment for them. App Store relationships to them are relatively straightforward. With the broader market for aggregators, they see changes happening with new players coming in and believe it is likely there will be a change in the dynamics between those relationships, between aggregators and device manufacturers and new streaming services. But they're positive about it. They feel it will be worked out. And in their words, they don't see any significant change to that sort of positive model, which is their words. They've invested in relationships with device manufacturers and platform owners for many years now. They were trailblazers with device manufacturers, the first to integrate with such a diverse set of them. And since 2013, in fact, you could argue they're trailblazers with the relationships between telcos and TV platforms. And they reference their Indian partnerships with the likes of Reliance Jio, India's largest mobile operator. And here they've launched a bundle with their mobile and fiber broadband plans. They've integrated Netflix with two of their set-top boxes. And those, along with other initiatives, particularly the local production, is key to their growth. They don't talk so freely about the other side of the relationship, customer retention, but it's clear that some relationships, like in India, are about growth, and others, like Sky, may be more about retention. But take-up, visibility, viewing, and ultimately subscriber retention is important to them. And it's the synergies between pay TV and SVOD that are particularly strong. All aggregators are offering something, but pay TV are under pressure to innovate and improve competitiveness. Pricing proposition challenges are there for them. They need more VOD, they need more flexibility. They have customers who want access to SVOD services. Whilst the SVOD players have got, well, they want incremental subs, they want to improve customer retention, they want positioning on the main viewing source in the home, which to me comes back to that point about a super-aggregator. And the ease of use. They want lower barriers to entry for people. They want reduced marketing costs. But the time-sensitive one in all of these is unique to pay TV, and that's the primacy of the home screen when it comes to viewing. A common theme now with operators in Europe is the desire to become the hub for video viewing, controlling the output on the TV and offering the platform for viewing. This has implications for free TV as well, who have growing their adjacent digital services at pace and also need to ensure positioning in their current world, with modern day EPG fights no doubt to follow. But Deutsche Telekom's ambition is to be the hub for all video viewing. Streaming services and partners keep being added. This includes Netflix, Prime, Sky, DAZN, Disney, Videoload, and all of the local videotecs, the ZDFs and so on. All the services are available on the Magenta TV homepage, and there's a fairly uniform search function. With Telefonica, they're also keen to point out at the moment that kind of the total integration of Netflix into their experience, including the UX, is incredibly important to them. Video remains core to their offer, and they've got a leading content proposition before Netflix with their own productions, all the football, kind of 95% of the movies and the TV series from all the major studios. but they still wanted Netflix. They had 60% pay TV market share, kind of 20% primetime audience with their own channels, but they still wanted Disney Plus and Netflix. With Telefonica, however, in pricing terms, they are kind of, albeit not exclusively, using these services to drive their fusion tiers, their kind of higher triple play and quad play tiers, with commercial bundling kind of offers to improve that and to maximize ARPUs is a key focus. Canal in France, in 2019, there was a very clear strategic pivot to establish themselves as a gatekeeper of video. This was, for them, they wanted to become the aggregator for video services, enabling them to gain scale and resist the pricing pressures from SVOD. Kind of breaking with quite a lot of years of hesitation in 2019, they cut the deal with Netflix, which included integration, set-top box and billing. They had exclusive agreement to carry Disney Plus in bundles, including billing. They had an exclusive distribution agreement with beIN Sports. And with the Disney and the beIN deals, that included the exclusive distribution rights and the right to resell it to IPTV services. With Sky, it was not until 2018, as we say, that they added Netflix, resisting them perhaps for long, until they could no longer do so. Initially, they integrated on the Sky Q box, and Netflix was bundled with Sky box sets in the Ultimate box sets add-on. But only 12 months later, Netflix has become even more heavily integrated into the full TV proposition. Sky Ultimate TV is the new TV bundle. That was in, I think, the end of 2019. That includes all the features of Sky plus Netflix. Sky's initial partnership with Netflix is voiced very positively by Sky, but the move was clearly forced upon them, with over 40% of their subs taking Netflix anyway. The enhancement of the relationship is likely a factor of the pricing pressures that they face, with Netflix now included in this entertainment bundle for a very competitive £25. But like Deutsche Telekom, they're pushing hard the single destination theme for video. In the recent Comcast results, they made a lot of the aggregator approach, both in terms of the Comcast business and the Sky Europe business. X1, the Xfinity service in the States, and Sky Q are both described by them as platforms for aggregating broadcast, sports, and streaming services. Jeremy Darroch emphasized a few things on the earnings call. On the supply side, he talked about their relationship with Disney that we already talked about. But on the consumer side, for them, consumers want to continue to get all that content through the Sky UI, and they can deep link into apps and bring customers back effectively into the Sky interface. With this shift in focus to aggregation, they're keen to highlight these twin elements, a better user experience, and in their words, more flexible cost structures. It's worth noting also that they recognise with their OTT service in the UK, Now TV, Sky can also target an additional part of the market to get more customers in a different way with aggregation, something they're not really doing here so in the UK, but they are doing in the US with Xfinity Flex. And it's worth having maybe a quick look at that before we wrap up. Comcast with Xfinity Flex can help drive what they describe as their number one strategic focus, broadband growth. Whether the aggregation is with full TV, Xfinity X1, or a hybrid streaming device offer like Xfinity's Flex, they stress that their advantageous position as a broadband provider with a strong starting point in the direct consumer relationship means that doing this on Flex is just the same as doing it on X1. X1 is a platform for aggregating broadcast, sports, and streaming services. Flex provides that same experience to the customers who prefer just streaming video. They feel they have a distinct advantage as customers really contemplate kind of their aggregating and streaming options when they take broadband. I'm not sure that's a kind of fair link, but nonetheless, they're clear on what their strategy is. Okay, to wrap up now, the aggregator landscape is, especially when you look at it in its entirety, it is increasingly crowded. I know we can narrow that down, but we will see more launches. Aggregators can coexist with different types of viewer and different use cases and significant market variation. But to dominate the main TV set in the home, there are specific needs, again, may vary by segment. Some device users will lean towards who they know and who dominates their lives, but pay TV has an important position in many homes and can be playing a role alongside broadband delivery. And if you're going to use the term super-aggregator, it's in that primary viewing device in the home where I feel we should be talking. And again, they're well placed for the role. But the primacy of a pay TV operator in the home remains a key asset, and this will decline in value as people are looking to other sources. And operators need to act fast to adjust their business to take advantage of this opportunity before it erodes. But everyone has things to consider, with channel groups and broadcasters having a future to prepare for, along with SVOD, whose priorities will shift with their growth profile and the competitive landscape they sit in. What is clear is that we are entering a new era for the navigation of video. And as we have seen, there are many considerations, some that haven't been fully addressed yet, but this shouldn't hinder development, and roadmaps can be put in place to take care of these complications that come with any type of integration. There's plenty of ground to cover when it comes to the future look of deals, but logic is largely being followed to date. And to follow Netflix's views, this is a positive model that will be worked out. That's it for slides. I'll just look to the Q&A. I mean, thanks a lot for all of you listening. Please reach out if there's any way we can help. We continue to support stakeholders with our analysis, and would love to help. Okay, here's a question. How does the improved consumer value proposition of the Super-Aggregator translate into reduced churn, improved ARPU, or subscriber uptake? Well, I guess there's a lot to that. Let me see if I can break that down. I mean, ultimately what we're talking about is being the not just the first choice for people when they go to viewing, but remaining front of mind. So if services need to be reached by switching device or going to a different streaming device or going somewhere else from the main user interface, then that is going to be a barrier to viewing, and that is going to reduce the amount of viewing that will happen. So the more the SVOD services can be reached, and the easier they can reach, the more they'll be used. In terms of translating to reduced churn, likewise, if the experience is good and the experience is strong, then people are not going to want to leave what they're used to. And in terms of ARPU and subscriber uptake, I think that's more linked to how those products are linked, whether they're linked to a different tier of product, where they're linked to a different product entirely, or where they're put in subscriber offers. That's how they can be used. Let me just see. What kind of commercial models and business cases are being put into place by operators? Good question. I think without wanting to sound like a cop-out, there's certainly no simple answer to that. Payback for operators, if they are looking to aggregate, can come not just through direct revenues for operators, which I think is the tough one, and it's always the difficult one, and the arguments internally are rife in cable companies and pay TV operators, I'm sure some of you will know of. But as can be inferred from many offers and what we know from our discussions, there are a mixture of initiatives and rationale targeting specific needs in some cases, as we just said, or more generally supporting TV. Because there are wider benefits, I think that's important. There are wider benefits than just the margin from the partner. And these will be modeled differently by operators. And I know this is sort of kind of controversial for many, but whether this is as part of a subscriber acquisition cost, whether it's ARPU improvement, tier mixes, churn, the list goes on. Where do you see the role of advertising and monetization with those MPVDs? I think you mean MVPDs. I'm not sure I understand that question. Where do I see the role of advertising? I mean, it plays its role just like it does everywhere. I think we talk a lot about SVODs and given the prize that might come from that in terms of the margin, and given the state of the SVOD market versus AVOD, you can. Let me just open that question again, so I've lost it. You can see why the focus is there, but I think they'll be there playing the role just as they always have done. Another question here. Aside from the usual suspects, who are the new or impending super aggregators that 3Vision feel are interesting across EMEA? I don't know about. I'll be loose in accepting the term super, but in terms of aggregators, I mean, we're still seeing the ongoing rollout of the AVOD players. I know that's not aggregation in its full, but we know. I mean, there are telcos out there, some who may have not been investing so much in TV, who are exploring the option of aggregating services beyond just the fairly pragmatic and random promotions they do with the likes of Netflix and Prime. But no one, I would say, I'm thinking now, no one in particular. We've seen some interesting initiatives, particularly in the Nordics, with broadcasters who are extending what they're doing with their player services. So here you have free TV broadcasters with their usual players who are adding on other on-demand services and other on-demand channels, whether that be examples like Ruutu in Finland with Paramount Plus, or other broadcast services that are just adding free players and free services. Who are the losers if the consumers are the winners by getting greater access and distribution to more content in one place? I guess this may not answer the question, but I guess one of the big questions and challenges I have now is how can we go about this without throwing away value? I think there are some well-known kind of global SVOD partnerships with telcos and other operators where it is fairly indisputable that a lot of value was thrown away. Either subscribers who weren't realizing they were gifted these services, weren't really using them, or the value hadn't really stacked up in their decision making when they were actually using it. So the danger is that there is value lost. But if the consumers are the winners, then I guess the question is kind of the margin that could potentially be lost as these services are bundled and the proposition is improved and there's a value improvement there for consumers. The question is that improved scale, either through customer acquisition or retention, is it worth it for the margin that's been given away? That's it for questions. Thanks a lot. That's great to have engagement from you all. As I said, the presentation and the webinar will be available to you all. We'll send out the links, and if there's any ways we can pick up on this and help either with questions from this, if it stimulated any thoughts, or with kind of areas we work in through benchmarking, kind of trend tracking, market analysis, and implementation support, we'd love to talk. So as many of you already know, our door is already open, and we just reach out. But thanks a lot, everybody.